Buddy. I'd like to do another session on church, and this will be a short one. It's part 4, and I'm going to call this The Church, Visible and Invisible. The true church exists in two simultaneous modes, the visible and invisible church. By the visible church, we refer to the local assemblies of God's people who believe in Jesus, worship Him, break bread, and who observe and propagate the teachings of the apostles, and they do this all publicly. Now, the visible church can be referred to as the churches. They are the witness of God, for better or worse, in every community where they're established. Churches come and they go. They can shine brightly or they can apostatize. They have different histories, experiences, expressions of worship, and they can be seen by men. Let your light so shine before men, Jesus said, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Our local church, Believers in Grace Fellowship, came into existence in 1982. It was founded by a few couples, including my wife and I, in my hometown of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We had been in prayer and seeking the Lord, and we had also immersed ourselves for months in the study of the pastoral epistles, 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. And we came to the conviction altogether that we were being called to begin a fellowship in our town. We first met in our home with about 10 people for worship, prayer, communion, and of course, Bible preaching and teaching. We were merely following a pattern that has been uninterrupted for the past 2,000 years among people on every continent, language, time, space, culture, environment, for all of these 20 plus centuries. Millions of people have organized themselves, some in the humblest dwellings, others in more grandiose surroundings, often in very hostile circumstances, other times in peace and tranquility, in order to form assemblies as visible expressions of the church. This is the visible church, and it's God's plan, His program for the time being. What is the invisible church? Well, it's the church singular, church with a capital C. There's no churches in that sense. There's just the church. The invisible church was founded by Jesus Christ and built upon the teachings of His apostles. It began in Jerusalem shortly after the resurrection of the Messiah. The invisible church doesn't come and go, for it's a fixed reality, and nothing Satan or the kings of the earth can ever do will be able to confound it. Jesus Himself said, "I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." The history of the church is the history of nonstop assault by the powers of darkness, persecution, false teaching, rival false churches, false words, corrupted leadership. Goes on and on and on. But there is still a real church, and there always will be. Local churches can come and go, or they can go bad, succumbing to the spirit of the age, or they can be crushed by persecution. But the church isn't going anywhere until God takes her to heaven to rule with Christ. Now, why do some call it the invisible church? Well, this expresses several ideas. Number one, most of the church has gone to heaven and is awaiting the completion of the plan of God. But they're still the church. We don't see them, but they're there and real. There's a great cloud of witnesses, a good many martyrs and saints of whom the world is not worthy, whom no one on this earth can see. They are the church just as well as we on earth are. They believe in Jesus Christ, love God, and have been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, and they make up the congregation of the saints. One old expression for this was that there's the church militant and the church triumphant. The church triumphant is in heaven. The church militant, well, that's us. We still have to fight our fight. Another reason it's called the invisible church, it refers to the fact that only God can see who is really and truly born again. Only born-again, regenerated people make up the true church. The church may be much larger than we thought it was, or it may be much smaller, But God sees who his people are. How many professing Christians are really saved? How many in history have really believed in Jesus? A third reason why it's called the invisible church is because the world cannot, quote, see the true church. Yes, it can see the visible church. Yes, the world believes in an institution, organization, or various organizations called the church. But the world can't see really the real church. I never saw it until I was born again. It doesn't get us, the world doesn't, because it doesn't or won't see Jesus, our Lord. It takes a revelation from God to see the true church. I had no idea what the real church was until I was born again. I was a member of a church. I was very religious and constantly surrounded with church, but I had no idea that there is a spiritual, organic, Jesus-created organization called the church until my eyes were open at my new birth. Now, there's a passage in the book of Hebrews about the true nature of the church, which has always blessed and encouraged me. It says this, "You are come unto Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, and to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than that of Abel." Hebrews 12, 22 to 24. Now, we in the church are part of something much bigger than our little assemblies. We are in continuity with the apostles and martyrs through the centuries, and we are part of something that shall never pass away and that cannot ever be quenched. There are angels at our assemblies. The church we are part of is called the Church of the Firstborn. Our fellow members in that church are the spirits of just men made perfect. And most importantly of all, in the church, we come to Jesus. He's there where two or more are gathered in his name. We must never forget that and never lose the sense of mystery and awe of what church actually means. Jesus himself is in our assemblies. He stands in the congregation, and he even joins in our praises to God according to the books of Psalms and Hebrews. And I quote, "For both he that sanctifies and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he's not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee." And again, "I'll put my trust in him." And again, "Behold, I and the children whom God hath given me." Hebrews 2, 11 to 13. If Jesus was going to be physically in your town, you would think you'd want to go be with him. Well, the truth is, Jesus is spiritually in every assembly of true believers who truly call on the name of the Lord. And according to this passage, book of Hebrews chapter 2, and it's quoting Psalm 22, Jesus himself stands in the midst of the church. Jesus reveals God through the preaching of the church. Jesus literally stands with us when we praise the Father. I wouldn't even go to church if I didn't think Jesus was there. Jesus is there. Go back to church and love it. God bless you and shalom.